And welcome back to A.R.'s Tales, aka the A.R.T podcast. I am A.R. Mirabal, and today I am joined by Lalig Tarbinian.
Yes.
Oh, thank God. And and Mary Bryant. They are the dynamic duo that make up the Bookshrine podcast.
Hi,
How are you?
everyone.
How are y'all doing?
Pretty well. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm phenomenal. Now, where can people find you? Website? Where can people find the podcast? Instagram? Any
Go,
links?
go, Renee.
They can find us on Instagram at Bookshrine and on Twitter at @thebook_shrine. And they can find us on pretty much every major podcast distribution out there.
Now, what inspired both of you or either of you to get into start doing a podcast derived of writing?
Well, we have been talking about doing a podcast together for, I would say, about a decade. And finally, I don't know, this year, it was literally around in January. I told her, I was like, I'm just going to start an Instagram about like Bookstagram because I was ready to kind of put myself make myself accountable to actually read because 2020 sucked. So once I said that, she was like, well, why don't we do the podcast on books? And I was like, I think we found the topic that we've been searching for. Like that was it. And within a week we started because I read a lot of books, so it was pretty quick to start um first episode.
Now, would you say that your love for reading began at a young age, or was it something that developed as you matured?
Actually, for me, reading started when I moved to America, which happened when I was 12. And my teacher, I was in a class that a lot of people didn't speak English. They spoke majority of Spanish. So the teacher would teach English and Spanish, but I didn't understand either of those languages. So she would give me an audio book with an actual book. At the time, it was cassettes. So it was a cassette you would have to put in and then read the book. And I read so many books that's how I learned English. And I've never really stopped reading in like books since 12 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I love reading.
Yeah, maybe that's like an immigrant thing because when I moved to America when I was like 7 years old, it was basically the same thing. Like the Grinch Who Stole Christmas, the Jim Carrey one had just come out that year, and I learned that thing word for word. That's basically I learned English off that movie alone.
That's pretty cool. Did you read subtitles?
No, like at the time, I don't even. No one in my family was that tech savvy. Not a
No.
chance. We got the VHS, popped it in. It
Yeah.
was definitely at that time. It was VHS. It wasn't even DVD yet.
No, yeah, I remember those days.
Yeah. Um. Now, as far as books, what genre was it that you gravitated toward? And would you say that your love of genres matured as you've aged?
Oh, it's 100% has. Well, okay, so I started with romance. I don't really remember my earliest books like in sixth or seventh grade or eighth grade, but I remember that I would go to the library and just check out a lot of romance books. Has it matured? Yes and no. I read a lot of fantasy now. I love fantasy, but romance, I love romance. There's so many different tropes in romance that I actually like reading.
Hmm. Now, what do you think it that made you gravitate towards romance versus other genres?
I don't know. I don't think I was ever probably introduced, like, unfortunately, say for like Harry Potter, it should have been the perfect age for me to be introduced to Harry Potter,
Hmm.
but I wasn't. So I don't think if I had the chance to read at that age, I would have gravitated towards fantasy, but I didn't. Not until like I started watching Lord of the Rings is when I started liking fantasy.
That's interesting because romance is an interesting genre because I think romance kind of encapsulates every great work. You know, like every great work that I can think back to has like a really good romance. Uh, Talking about Harry Potter is a great example. I was in the same age frame, right? I should have like 100% been in that into
Yeah.
Harry Potter. It should have been like a like a Slytherin under my bio, whatever. All the people that do that, but I don't. I never got into it. My thing was more like Rick Riordan, with the Percy Jackson
Hmm.
series and like Philip K. Dick and weirdly or not, all the books that we were forced to read in English, I actually kind of like. Like the
Yeah.
Catcher in the Rye and all those kind of the more classical stuff, the Shakespearean, the
Oh, I
Great
loved
American.
it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was I was I was all into it. I mean, Romeo and Juliet has
Mm,
been kind of like watered down a lot. That's like a name that like people they're all Romeo and Juliet, but I mean that is a classic. You
yeah.
read that, that's a good work, and
Well,
it's
because it's like the original, you know what I mean? So it actually hit home, but now it's just, I feel like it's played out. Well, I shouldn't say that, but it's
I mean,
mostly,
if you're gonna say Romeo and Juliet is played out, then you should probably say everything Shakespeare is played out.
yeah, I mean, going off that, specifically Shakespeare and the way that Romeo and Juliet, the reason I think it's so like genius is that I remember reading it at 16 and being
yeah.
100% in that shoes and being like, oh yeah, I get, this type of love. And then you reread it in your 20s and you're like, yo,
You were such a child,
these,
like, don't
yeah,
do
these
that.
kids, what are they talking about? Let me find out. I find this girl, and 2 weeks later, I'm over here stabbing a dude in the middle of a square, a
Yeah.
public square over her. Why? Getting into a whole gang thing over it's crazy. It's crazy.
It kind of reminds me of like Little Mermaid. I was totally with what she was saying at the time, but now looking back, it's like, you're 16. What do you know about love? You don't know anything.
Yeah, willing to trade away her whole like her mermaidhood, like
Yeah.
the entire life that she known, just like I was like, oh yeah, I mean, why not
Oh my
go?
goodness.
Then again, I guess that's like a pretty good like a allegory for just like how you interpret life as like a young kid, that you always think the shades of green are like better out of the other side of the field rather than one that you're in, and you're always looking at something like something could be better, and like like I always felt that way when like in growing up, where people would always say like, oh man, this town sucks, I can't wait to move out, and then I had the privilege of moving out, and you would find out it wasn't any better. No matter what you move, no matter where you moved, there was the same shit. There were great people and bad people, and if anything, it was just a temperature change. Maybe there was palm
That's,
trees.
yeah. That's literally what it is. It's just different place, but same thing all the time.
Uh, Now, how do you think that the love of romance and just the genre itself, how do you think that's going on for the podcast itself? Like, how do you think that uh translates into the podcast?
Funny, like, it's funny because have I done a lot of romance? No, right,
No,
Renee?
we haven't really done that much romance, which is great for me because I don't care for romance. Like you guys are talking about romance and all the greats, and I'm like, I don't really care for it
Oh,
at
hop
all.
in.
But we haven't really done a lot of romance on the show so far.
Even the romance that I chose turned out not to be really a romance. It was more like
So
coming of
I actually just
age.
learned it's more like a contemporary fiction.
Mm.
What, it's what you like?
Yeah, like that's my thing. That's me now.
Now that's interesting because I am just so lost with this whole new. I can't say it's new, but I guess I just lived a very confined reading experience that I didn't know there were so many genres. You know what I mean? I knew speculative fiction was a thing a couple months ago. Erotica maybe a year ago. I mean, like all these different genres, I had no idea they even existed. I thought everything was just a sci-fi or it was fantasy or it was nonfiction. That was basically about it. Vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. So, what is contemporary fiction? Can you explain that to me?
Well, from what I've read, contemporary fiction is supposed to be just like fiction that can happen in the real world. And you would think, okay, well, a lot of the stories that are fiction can happen as long as it's not like a paranormal, supernatural fantasy type thing, right? But I think as far as contemporary goes, it's supposed to be anything that's just realistic. So a story about a woman who it doesn't love because she is scared of the grief that comes when you lose love. Like that's something that everybody could relate to.
Hmm. That's an interesting point, because to take that same idea, if you were to take that character, that same character development, and then put it in a world where, I don't know, outside her window there's like fairies and like people shooting wands at each other, does that water down her story any less or any more?
I think it would add, I just think it would just pile on to her story, and not necessarily in a good way, because it would just be a lot of extra where we can't really focus on her fear of grief. But I mean, and to be fair, in that type of world, you can also have fairies and stuff as long as they're not overpowering her story or her journey.
Now that's an interesting point. Do you think, of any book that either of you have read so far, do you think that there has been something that I was lacking in that sense? Like maybe that you had a really good character development, but there was too much craziness around it in order for you to really dive into that character, or maybe the opposite, where you think that maybe a character development could have been fleshed out a little bit more because the environment that had been created by the author was actually so significant.
Well, I don't read a lot of fantasy,
Mm.
so I can't say for sure that I've come across it.
That I have, there's, okay, so lately I have, see, there's one I don't want to talk about because we are gonna record still, and she doesn't know yet. So I'm trying to keep it.
On the
There's
DL.
yeah. So there are a few that don't. I wish they would give more.
Mm.
There are some that I don't like the ending, or some that take direction that I disagree with, or feel like it could have gone in a different, like it
Different
went this
route.
way. Yeah, a different route. It would have been a little nicer,
Mm.
but I can't really right now tell you which books they are. But there's a couple that I would love to talk about.
Well, the one that came to my mind wasn't even necessarily a book; it was a TV show, The Magicians on Netflix. I don't know if either of you are aware of it.
Oh, I saw like I think season one only. I
Well,
haven't seen more.
that's one of those shows for me where when you sit back and you think about the character development, it's actually very mature and it's actually like really good. But then just how contrived they make the plot and all the crazy things that they start adding into the season 2 and season 3, it really starts taking away from the characters themselves. Where I easily just got like just gave up, threw up my white flag. I was like, yeah, I'm done with this show. But my friends that continued watching it, they would talk to me, and that they would talk, and they were smart because they wouldn't talk to me about what happened with like the plot. They would just act, almost like they were giving me updates on a friend. It was like, oh man, let me tell you what Margot went through this week, and I'd be there. I'd be like, oh shit, tell me more, tell me more. Did he put up like and then it would just, I would get really into it, and then I would go and do a little bit of research, and I was like, they did what? They did what? And it was just one of those things that's almost frustrating to that end.
There's quite a few shows that frustrates me and her.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Oh,
say like I will definitely bring up the
oh,
show
elaborate.
Be
right
right
here.
behind her.
Oh, boom. I mean, you crushed what, 7 seasons of beautiful character development,
And then you bring in season 8.
and you just toss it behind you. What's weird too was that like I heard, well, I can't say I heard, I read a lot of other people's opinions about it, and a lot of people felt that way after season 5. I mean, I thought season 6 and 7 were pretty decent, but
No,
to me, 8 was the definitive. Like, what are we doing?
I don't think season 8 should have happened.
Mm-mm.
I don't know why it happened.
Well,
It
I
doesn't
have a
make
decent idea
sense.
why. I mean, the guys at the time, the showrunners, the same, like as soon as like I think season like 5 wrapped up, they got tapped by Disney to like start heading like the new Star Wars or something. So they just had that huge paycheck waiting for them, and it was all indicative on them finishing the show.
That's right. Actually, I remember it was HBO, right? Like I
Yeah,
remember, yeah.
yeah. So, and Disney has a way bigger checkbook than HBO does. So I'm pretty sure they just had that. They were like, "Hey, I can get I can get a yacht. I never owned a yacht before," which I get. I mean, I want to own a yacht too, but I guess integrity over anything.
Yeah.
Now, if we, especially that you seem so passionate about it, what do you think it was specifically that kind of ruined it to you? That writing in a writing sense.
I mean, entire just Daenerys alone. That's not who she was. I don't know. You agree, right, Renee? Like they completely
Yeah,
took out.
360. Three,
Yeah.
is it
Well,
360? It's
actually,
180.
oh yeah, it went back. No, 180 would have made a change.
No,
Yeah,
one.
Actually,
180
yeah,
like
it is
backwards.
180. So
Yeah.
yeah, 180. She did a complete 180. And not only her, also what happened to Jamie's complete
Yeah,
development? Like seven
Mm.
season of him having
of a
some kind of
beautiful
feelings and
redemption arc
morals.
too.
Yeah.
He was just
And
like, nope.
then no, sorry. Mm-mm, that's not what you get.
Man, and the thing is too is that I actually was kind of sold because when did him and Brienne have sex? Was it in season 8 or was it in 7?
Oh, I don't remember.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
bad
not
at that.
sure. Like I
Be-
want to say it was 7 because 8 was just so horrible, but it could have been 8.
Yeah, I want to say I actually want to say that it was an 8, and although I could be wrong, I honestly could be in 7. But the reason I bring it up is because I actually think that little part of his development was actually pretty interesting. Because what it was that he wanted to wake up with her the morning after, right? But then he got called out to war, and just had to leave. There was no phones back then. No
Yeah.
LOL had to go. Like it was just that he had to just go to war. That was it. There was no hearing back from each other. I thought that was actually kind of like interesting and indicative of the time frame because it's just something especially that we get as more and more involved we get with communication and social media. Seeing those type of things are just gonna become more and more foreign to us, you know what I mean? People viewing and seeing the lives of people that don't have the same communication that we do. I can only imagine how my grandkids are gonna view that type of shit, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I don't understand what like the direction they went. Well, I don't agree. So we don't agree with season 8. It never happened.
No, it never happened.
We're just waiting for the books, and that will be our conclusion.
Now, did you read the books prior to the TV show or was it vice versa?
Actually, I was introduced because of the show, because of HBO. But I did read book 1 and 2, and book 2, 1, 2, 3. I've read book 1, 2, 3.
And
Mm.
I've never read either any book. I don't know what about fantasy. I just feel like fantasy books are just
Too
like
much.
massive. And when I first started reading, there wasn't, well, I don't know if there was actually audiobooks. I feel like they might have been on CD at the time, but it wasn't like every book had an audiobook like today. So maybe if we had them then, I would have ventured into maybe some more of these fantasy things. Like even with Harry Potter, I've never read the book, but I had a librarian who read to us, and that was kind of my introduction to Harry Potter. So I definitely probably would have kept listening if I had an audiobook at the time.
Now, when I asked Lalig, I also meant it was kind of a general question for the both of you. But how did you get into reading? Was reading something that you started at a younger age, or was it something that developed like in high school, or how did it go?
For me, I've been reading since I definitely want to say 5th or 6th grade. I remember going around that time we were in bowling leagues, my family. So I used to get books to take with us as we went on these little vacations it was just like a weekend vacation to do tournaments. And I used to go to the libraries and to the bookstores and pick up books to read while we were driving. Um and that's kind of when I got my first start into reading books. Early on, I want to say about 8th grade is when I discovered fan fiction, which took me to like at eighth grade, the online internet was just like forums everywhere and people posting, and I learned to
Yahoo
read fan fiction,
groups.
and I just moved from books to fan fiction because I knew what to expect with fan fiction. Like I know not so much the plot of the story, but I know my characters that I like won't die, won't disappear, won't fall in love with the wrong person. So that's really where I got my big start. And I like to this day, fan fiction is like major in my life. I read it so much, but now I'm starting to read books because, I got to keep up with Lolly.
Now that is a really interesting statement. You said that you read fan fiction because basically you want it like the version that nothing goes wrong in your eyes.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why do you think that? Because to me, some of my favorite TV shows are things that I almost don't agree with, because then it kind of like I now have to think about why that happened. I kind of like think about like the philosophical terms of like in Breaking Bad. I every single episode I was like, man, what's going on? And it kind of like made me have like double back and be like, oh yeah, I wonder why he would just continue going down a route I wouldn't like.
Oh
Well,
no, we
see,
just blame the writers.
what I think though, like what you're explaining with Breaking Bad is you're questioning that character's development, like that character's mental state, why they're doing X, Y, and Z. And for me, when it comes to fan fiction, people usually write the character development in a way that I can already agree. Like I know this character already developed. I know how they got from point A to point B. And now in fan fiction, you're going to put them in a different environment. And I get to see sometimes in good fiction that character develop in the same, to the same end point, but in a different way. And then you do have the bad fan fiction that's like, no, that is totally out of character for that character as well. I think I'm so much more into character development over plot when it comes to stories, which is why I can stick to consistently reading about the same character over and over and seeing how they develop from other people's viewpoints. It's not so much about what happens in the story or what extra stuff happens. It could be a vampire story, it could be some romance story, it could be some crazy ice queen story, like it could be anything, but as long as it's this character and that character or a group of characters, then I'm happy.
Now that is something that's like really awesome. I'm a kid at heart, so I like watching like Avatar, like the Nickelodeon series and whatnot. And it's one of my favorite things. Like not only that, but just other great writing is that when you have a character that you like, it takes almost no time for you almost to get amped over just imagining how they're gonna be in situations when you put them. So like you have a character that you know is gonna be like funny and like that just like take certain things. Maybe that he doesn't he's kind of like a grandpa and doesn't like using a cell phone. And then you put them, you just know that he's there if they're ever put in a situation where they have to use their cell phone, you just know it's gonna be a funny type of moment. And
Yeah.
just knowing that like kind of knowing that's gonna happen, the foreshadowing of that alone is enough to keep you reading or enough to keep you watching or anything, just because the character is already developed and it's like knowing a good friend. You just know that like, oh, wait till this person shows up. Oh shit. And it's just it's like perfect. Now going off of that, what fan fiction do you think, what because did you read the origin, the source before getting into the fan fiction, or did you just hop into the fan fiction?
So for me, the fan fiction I read is based off of TV shows. Um, and it depends on the show. So when I first got started with fan fiction, I was watching Buffy, and I that's like my show. And I watched every single episode probably more than once at this point. So when I got to fan
Lucky
fiction,
numbers.
I knew, the characters and who I liked and that development. And then now I'm into things like Once Upon a Time and Supergirl. And for those shows, I watched the first few seasons. Like I think I made it to 2 seasons on Once Upon a Time, and maybe I think I'm on third season of Supergirl. And then I kind of just like get disinterested in the TV show because I know all I need to know. And then the fan fiction kind of picks up from there and carries it to the best places.
I disagree with her. I think she gets mad at the writers, doesn't agree with what they're writing, and then she finds a writer who goes with her opinions. That's literally what happens with her. That's
Yes,
why
I
she
will agree with
reads.
that. That is that is what happens. Yes,
Man,
I
that is
don't like what
so
they're doing to
interesting.
my sweet characters, so now I have to find someone who's gonna do them better.
Yeah, no, I'm different though. For me, I the reason why I read, well, I used to, as not, I don't read as much than I used to fan fictions. The reason why I love them is because I would love a show so much and it would finish, and I just craved more and more with these characters. And
Mm.
so even if it was like an alternate universe story, I was fine with it mostly. Like for me, it was TV shows like Supernatural. Well, I know Supernatural wasn't done, but a lot of times I didn't. That was a fix it fiction for me, Supernatural, because I didn't agree a lot of the times with what the writers would do. So I would read that because I didn't agree with it. But for things like Merlin, it finished. I didn't. Why did it finish after season 5? And it shouldn't have.
Because of the
So
Brits.
yeah. So I just would like to read fan fiction because I need more of those, the world and more of the characters. But her is because she doesn't
Yeah,
agree
I
with
need
the
my
writers.
characters to be done perfectly, because the writers didn't make they made them mad like they
But
did.
they created
Made
the
them
character that you
sad.
loved. How can you say that they now ruined it just because they killed it off?
What?
Or them
What was
off.
that?
I was like, but they created the character that you fell in love with. So how could they be bad just because they like did something you didn't like?
No. So for TV, one person or two,
Yeah.
like a small number of people created the character I fell in love with.
All right, I'll be,
And then from
fair enough.
season 1 to
Yeah.
season 2, they picked up new writers who were like,
They don't know anything. Yeah.
All right. Honestly, for TV, I guess that is a way different story. I'll give you that. I'll give you
Yeah.
that. All right. That's a pretty good point. Now, I'll be honest with you. I think you're the first people to actually go in on fan fiction. I've never read fan fiction a word in my entire life.
You
A
should.
word. Because, well, and yeah, because for the most part, I just focus on like crazy new like I guess I kind of like in Spanish we have a saying like eating with your eyes. Sounds a lot better in Spanish, but it basically means like that you constantly are looking at food and like want to eat it, but not even because you're hungry, but just because like, it looks good, you know. So for books and like for like reading and entertainment, it's kind of like when I get to the end of something, even if it's great. Peaky Blinders just did that to me, where I'm like, oh, what?
Mm.
How's there not 12 more seasons? But to me, it's just kind of like, all right, well, just something new now, and I like doing like almost like a 180 from there. I'm just like, all right, well, this was like historical British. Now I want to do some sci-fi. And there's like some aliens hitting each other, and I want to do some comedy, and then just doing like a 5 point star every time I watch anything.
There are shows like that, like you just said, where I'm totally switching from like drama, well, never drama for me, but like comedy to sci-fi or fantasy. But like things like True Blood, I couldn't. Once that finished, I was like, okay, I need more similar, and I couldn't find it. It was not good. So there are certain shows that leave me just wanting more.
yeah, I
Not
would
Game of
agree.
Thrones.
Yeah,
I
Game
mean,
of
if they
Thrones really
stopped
shit the
at
bed.
season 7, maybe.
Game of Thrones
Mm,
was like, just nah, I'm good, thanks.
yeah,
Please don't do anymore.
Do you think that's why we haven't heard from or heard about the spinoff or whatever was supposed to be happening?
I
yeah.
mean,
I mean, I remember when like in season 7 there was like 20 spin-offs ready. Like
Yeah.
every network
yeah.
wanted some type of Game of Thrones thing. And now season 8 dropped. Oh my god! I mean, just talk about a killer. If I were George R. Martin, I'd have a hit. I'd order a hitman for both of them.
Uh,
No way. Just how could you do that to my baby? I mean, especially that when like, have you dabbled in writing yourselves, or are you just purely on the reading end of it?
I've dabbled, but it's mostly her focus, not mine.
Yeah, I enjoy writing it when I can. I like writing in general. And when I try to write, I do try to base them off of the characters that I like.
Oh yeah.
So you write fan fiction yourself, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, with the fan fiction that you write, where do you usually get your source from? Like, usually, what is the thing that you derived? Are you writing Buffy fan fiction?
Ah.
Um, actually, mostly the things that I've written have been for Glee.
Huh. Okay.
I try to. I don't know. I think the high school, like, just that time in your life, high school is just so known for me. Like, I've been there. That was a great time. I got younger sisters that's been there, so I was there for that for them as well. So I know that high school period. So Glee is kind of where I've been writing focused at, but I have been trying to break out into something a little more not high school.
Mm. So there's something about like the coming of age trope that you like, or is it more of just specifically tailored around the high school experience?
Just the coming of age. And we read a book for the podcast, Honey Girl, which was like a coming of age story as well. And I was really intrigued by that because it was like a coming of age past the high school year. And I was like, I could totally write a story of, more adult characters doing a coming of age story now that's not Glee.
Mm. Now, this is going to be, it's in the same vein, but it's on the way opposite spectrum. Have you ever watched Dazed and Confused?
Oh my God, but I was very dazed, and so I'm very confused about it right now.
Yeah, that's my movie. It just came out on Prime. It just came out on Prime Video. I watched it a couple of days ago, and I can't remember the last time I watched a movie and had a like a cheesy shit-eating grin.
Yeah.
The entire time I was watching, I was like, yeah.
No, there's
every
a genre
single
of
scene.
those types of movies that I love, like Grandma's Boy, obviously all of the Pineapple Express and all the newer movies. But yeah, no, Dazed and Confused. She wouldn't watch it. It's not her type of movie.
I have no idea what you guys are even talking about.
I recommend it. Like, look, it is Matthew McConaughey. The first time he ever says, "All right."
Yeah, but
that is that movie. That movie. I mean, that movie's legendary. And just everything. Like, I can't imagine. I can't tell you the amount of times I think to myself, "Air raid," and just like that scene where the girls are like doing like the hazing. My God, what a just phenomenal movie. What to you is something that makes you think back on your childhood, which is kind of weird that I'm saying that after Dazed and Confused, because that movie was a little like easy 15 years before my time. But what is something that kind of brings you back?
Oh,
it could be a book, a TV show, a movie.
You go, Renee. I can't think of anything at this moment.
Well, something that brings me back to my childhood, it'll have to definitely be a TV show because I spend a lot of time consuming TV, and I'd have to say Buffy or Charmed. That was my childhood.
When you say childhood for me, I sometimes wonder like if it's Lebanon times or America times. So to me, like Lebanon times would be Aladdin, and this is funny, but Superman, like Lois and Clark. Stop laughing. I see you, Renee. And then for here, America, it would also be Charmed, like she said, and Friends, 100% Friends.
Friends. I mean, that's a classic. I mean, who can't sit down and watch a couple episodes?
Renee
Me?
can't.
Come on, what's wrong?
I never into Friends, but also I'm not big on comedy, so
yeah. That's my
who hurt you? What do you mean you don't like comedy? You don't like laughing?
I don't know, man. I could never explain it. It's just like I could get
say
into
anything,
comedy,
not comedy,
like for like few episodes, and then I like disappear.
My God.
To be fair,
comedy's my lifeblood.
Well, to be fair, she does like stand-up comedy, so she does.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, we're cool. Who do you like for stand-up?
Yeah, it's a new thing for her though, so I'm very proud.
Hey, that's awesome.
Def Comedy Jam for years. It's just it's like now I talk about it because every time I'm going to lay down, Facebook is like, here's a stand-up comedy show you should watch.
What? Your Facebook is telling you that? I need to hop on. Man, for me, man, especially Def Comedy Jam. You hit a. I mean, you ever seen Bernie Mac's like legendary like rant when there was like people heckling him and he just went out and he was just like, I ain't scared of you motherfuckers, and he just like kept on going. Like it was unreal. He scared the shit out of the crowd because like only 4 minutes before, like huge names were going up and getting demolished by the crowd, and then Bernie Mac comes out and just like a principal talking to elementary school. He was like, look, sit down, sit down. I'm about to go do my little money. You sit down and we'll be all right. And by the end of it, everybody was cheering. It's unreal the way that like comedians can just get up and just like dictate like that. You know what I mean? And just like
Yeah.
completely like it's almost a trance. If you ever been to like a comedy show, that like whatever they're saying, you're just with. Like even if you don't agree with it politically, you'll like say that you'll think about it like after, but like at the moment you're there just laughing. Maybe it's the liquor, maybe it's the liquor. I'll give you that because there's definitely a 2 drink minimum no matter where you're at. But
But sometimes the liquor makes them not funny.
not in my experience. Let me tell you. Maybe maybe have a kid's point of view as far as like comedy goes, but man, everything just gets like 20 times funnier, no matter what. Especially falling. Oh my god, there's something about falling.
Yeah.
But to that extent, what do you think is what is driving your current TBR? Right? Am I saying that? Like
TBR.
right, TBR, is that the thing
Yeah.
like your reading list, right? Yeah,
To be
yeah.
read. Yeah.
Yeah, to be read. Yeah, okay, cool. So what is driving your current TBR? What genre, what type of writing, prose, or even
Okay.
titles?
So I have been, like we said, I've been very into fantasy lately. Um I just let me see. I just picked up these 2 books. It literally just came into the mail today. Let's see if it can be shown. So and then I'm not gonna lie, I picked it up because it looks fucking cool. Like
Children
so
of Virtue and Vengeance? God
yes.
damn.
And then oops. Wait, no.
Oh no, it's
Chil-
disappearing.
Yeah, because it's white.
Man, that's some crazy magic you
Okay,
got
so
going
this one
over there.
says, thank you, thank you. I'm a magician.
You
Children of
you just
Blood
proved
and
it.
Bone. Oh, there.
Hey, you did it. Right
Told
there,
you
just stay right there.
I'm magic.
Okay. Children of Blood and Bone. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I picked them up because they look cool, and I had to pick up the other one because it was 1 and 2. So
Man, those look hefty. What are those, like
oh
250 pages?
no,
I mean, not pages, words.
words. Imagine. No, this little one is about 400 and then pages, and then this one looks like 530 ish. So 400 and 530 ish.
What do you need all those words for? How do y'all feel about about long prose versus brevity? Do you think well, you just kind of proved that obviously you're a fan of like the big long books, especially the Game of Thrones. Well, Game of Thrones is like the third book is like 1,000 pages. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's like
It's
I think it's
encyclopedia.
like
I mean, it's
okay.
crazy. It has every word in it.
Look, sometimes the book shouldn't be long. So when I'm reading, okay, I'm not gonna say a name again because we have to record this, but I'm just gonna say recently I read a book and I just felt, even though the writing was phenomenal, I just felt like a lot of things were unnecessary for it to, like, I didn't have to read a 500 page of amazingly written just stories when the main story was just like in the beginning and at the end, like the middle didn't need to happen. So there are things that I just don't understand why they would put it, because it's fantasy, it doesn't need it. But a lot of the times, like Harry Potter needs it, because Harry Potter started with small and then it just gradually got bigger and bigger and bigger. But it had to, because like, you know, she kept diving into the world, and the more you dive in, the more you got to tell a story. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point because Harry Potter started off at like 68,000, and then it like I think the last book, yeah, the last book got up to like 100, like 75 or something like that.
Yeah, I think this is actually, that's not the biggest one, but this is book 4, and it's that big.
I'm
maybe
kind
they
of
did that for
excited for you
defense.
to read those fantasy books because I don't think we've done a fantasy book on the show. And I feel like it'll just
We
be me asking so many questions. Like, even though I don't necessarily read fantasy, I enjoy
Buffy is
learning
fantasy.
about it or watching it
yeah, she just doesn't like to read it.
because it's just so
Oh,
long.
okay. Oh, maybe it's just the writer though, because I mean, like you can find like a writer that goes on and on and on for just any genre.
Well, yeah, because I've read some 250,000 worded fan fictions. I enjoy long, right? Like, if it's written well, I enjoy it. It's just fantasy. There's also so much going on, and I don't know if I'll be able to keep up with the world. I've never really given it a try. I might even enjoy it.
It sounds like what it is, honestly. Uh, now continue with that thought. Well, just the same question that I asked the league. How do you feel about the brevity versus long prose?
I mean, as long as it's written well,
Mm.
I don't see a problem with it. If it's like a college essay where where they just trying to tack on stuff to meet a word count,
Mm.
then I'm gonna have to agree with Lolly. Like, you should have cut it a couple pages down here.
Man,
Again, depends on the story though for me.
Yeah, and it also depends on the writer, because if you're a good writer and then the story calls for a very planned out world and a bunch of words, then I'm all for it. I'll read it happily.
especially with the whole Game of Thrones thing. I mean, I was a huge fan of the TV show, obviously, but then when I went on to the book, and I got to like the first chapter, he started talking about food. I was like, all right, I'm done. Checked out. Man would talk like 10 pages on a boar's head with an apple in it. It's like, okay, I get it, imagery of a red, okay, I get it, literature, but like
Literature.
but like why delve into it? You could have had one line and that would have been it. It would have made me like think a little
uh
bit more, and it was like the whole iceberg analogy that from Hemingway.
See, I kind
You
of
don't need to have the whole
disagree.
thing. Oh, okay.
I Yeah, well, not all the time, but when you said like one sentence, I don't like when it's in your face, like there's a door, like there. Okay, for instance, this is not. Renee wrote a story recently. I'm sorry to put you out there, but it literally, the way she wrote it, it made me visualize, and that requires more words than just telling me, oh, I think it was the slushy, Renee. For instance, the way she
No.
described an action of like somebody grabbing a slushy and just tossing it into somebody's face, instead of just saying that in one sentence, she had literally like a few paragraphs of just motion, and I visualize that, and that to me sometimes is really good, and that's what I enjoy about reading, because it puts me in that world,
No, I'm
whether it's
glad that
as
I was able
simple
to do that.
whether it's simple as somebody throwing a slushy, or in a fantasy world like I'm in Hogwarts, you know what I mean?
Hmm. No, I definitely agree with that. Do you think that there's anything like what is your favorite, if you were kind of a change up in topic, but what do you think is your favorite guilty pleasure book? Like if we were to like if you weren't to have like an actual podcast that you talk about the literature about things, but just something that you just read to yourself, or a TV show or a movie that there's something about it that you just have to go back to it. Mine
uh,
is Tokyo Drift, the Fast and Furious movie. I don't know what it is. I would consider myself a movie buff, and I'll go into Criterion with you. I'll discuss. But there's something about Fast and Furious, man. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the movie. Maybe it's like the music,
are
the
you
drift
talking
that they're
about the
hitting.
entire
No, no,
series?
no, no. Just Tokyo
Just
Drift. There's something about Tokyo Drift, and it's not even the best one of the series, but there's something about it. Maybe it's how they hit. Maybe how it's like they shift in between gears 20 times. That's impossible with any car. I don't know. I don't know, but there's something about it. I come back to it.
Yeah, there's quite a few things for me like that. Like I mentioned Merlin, that's definitely Merlin.
Hmm.
Aladdin, because I have a thing for Aladdin.
Oh.
So, and it has to be, well, actually, surprisingly, the movie wasn't bad. So good job, Disney, on that one.
Oh, I haven't
Because
seen it, but I have
you
Disney
have
Plus.
not.
I will definitely watch it.
I think you should. If it's not the same because it's not, it's Will Smith. You can't
Yeah, he's
compare.
new. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you can't compare to the original Genie. So when you go in there thinking, hey, Will Smith's gonna portray a new Genie, then I think you'd like the movie.
Okay.
So, and I'm only okay with it because we can't really, like, they had to get a different actor. So that's the only reason why I'd be okay with Genie being replaced.
Mm. What about Mulan? Have you seen that out of
I have
curiosity?
not yet. Have you, Renee?
Mm. No, I am so far behind on the live action Disney's.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of them. I know Lion King had the same thing, and I just was not about it. Um,
Lion King looked weird, so I didn't watch it.
I saw
Hmm.
Lion King for the culture, so had to do that one. I thought it was okay. I mean, it's talking animals, so yeah, it's a little weird.
Now, the guilty pleasure question. What
Oh
about you,
yeah.
Mary, or Renee, or
Um,
Bryant, Mrs. Stark, however you want to go?
I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would have a guilty pleasure type movie, but I mean, I guess if I had like the one thing that I watch over and over that people just might not understand would be Cruel Intentions. That's like, yeah, that's
Yo,
my
what's
favorite.
up?
Yeah,
Nobody
yeah,
knows that movie.
yeah, we do.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, I guess
original.
yes. The one
Yeah,
with what's her name?
Reese Witherspoon and
Sarah
Buffy.
Michelle
Buffy.
Gellar.
Yeah, Buffy.
Yes. Wait, that's not the original one. The original one is the one with
That is original.
No, I think I wasn't.
man. It's old. No, the original one is like old. It came out in like the 80s. It
Yeah,
Okay,
has
then she's talking about the one I mentioned.
yeah,
yes.
the
I'm talking
one.
about that one too. Yeah.
Okay.
But it actually tripped me out because I love that movie. Fair warning, I watched it with my sister when I was well, I didn't watch it with my sister. She introduced it to me. You know how it is, like with older siblings. It was like her movie that she watched and she wouldn't let me watch. And I was like, oh yeah, well I'm gonna. So I stole it, watched it one day myself. I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And then I was just so fascinated with the movie. I found out there was actually a that one was actually a sequel. And the original one has man, what's that guy? He's famous as shit. I can't believe uh
Why don't I
it's
know
that guy that
this?
he talks like very John Malkovich. John Malkovich and the actress that played Marie Antoinette. She won like a whole
Kristen
bunch.
Dunst?
You know
No,
what?
older.
Definitely not that one.
Yeah, okay, wait. I'm like, listen, I'm not that old, so my knowledge is 90s and 2000s.
But like, I know which movie he's talking about. I have no idea who the actress is, but I've seen the original because I love the one with Sarah Michelle Gellar so much. I'm like, I got to see this other
Yeah.
one to just compare.
Now, which one do you think was better?
Well, so because I personally love Sarah Michelle Gellar, I'm gonna go with Sarah Michelle Gellar. I don't know. I like
she was
the
an
way
animal
that
in that
acts,
movie. My God.
so hers
Yeah.
is definitely my favorite.
No, I'll give you that. I'll put it this way. I think that the story of the original was better just because it was original and they just had like a better idea of it. But the drama of the newer one, it's just, I mean, you sit back and watch that, it's just insane. That
The
whole thing
ending.
is insane. Yeah,
The ending is just imprinted in my head.
yeah. Like I actually think that that movie, man, talking about Romeo and Juliet, I'm telling you, everything always comes back. They like that thing actually has, if you look at it, that story is basically kind of like a twisted, it's almost like fan fiction of Romeo and Juliet. They even have the little scene where he shoots somebody, where they like, the main characters kill somebody in the name of love, like, and like that's like what, like halfway through.
But I mean, a lot of things goes back to not just so much Romeo and Juliet, but Shakespeare. Like everybody is an adaptation of something Shakespeare. So
360. We started this way.
Yeah, every episode, like everything always ends up being like that. Now, what do you think? I actually really like that whole thing of it goes back to Shakespeare. What other works do you think could you name off the top of your head what could be derived from Shakespeare?
She's the man. We've been talking about that.
Please elaborate. Please
Oh,
elaborate.
yeah, it's a movie with Amanda Bynes that came out mid 2000s,
No,
2006.
I actually know. Yeah, I know exactly what movie, but like,
Oh, okay.
how does that relate?
Oh, I can't remember. We like she
Brought it
went
up
through like
twice.
50 different Shakespeare plays. It was like, oh, it's this one, it's this one. Then we figure out which one it was. But it's an adaptation of one of his plays. Which one was it? You Memory. Come on.
Not Midsummer Night's Dream and not
Man, I
Twelfth
had that
Night.
one in my name.
12th Night.
Baby.
Look, we went
Fiddler on the Roof.
No.
Hamlet, for sure.
Hamlet, totally.
Man,
I don't know.
Yeah, that's great. You know, have you ever seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger Hamlet?
No.
You know that exists? That's a real
No.
movie. I
When
swear to
did
God.
that come out?
Like in the 80s. It's like famous too. I couldn't believe it.
That's funny.
Yeah. Now, what is your just favorite, like your top 3 all-time works? Like, again, movies, TV, books. Just what is your shit? And on top of that, what do you think defines good writing? Like, to you, when you're reading that prologue, when you're in the first chapter, what is it that turns your head on into being like, oh, okay, yeah.
To me, good writing, honestly, I can no longer judge a writing from the first chapter. First of all, the first chapter has to draw me in, or it has to make me want to continue. But I don't judge a book until I'm fully done with it, because let me tell you, authors can really screw up the ending. And when they screw up the ending, it just, well, actually, then the writing is still good. Are you talking about the writing or the book in itself?
You define that. You tell me.
Well, there are some really, really good books I've read that I don't agree with the ending, but the writing is phenomenal. So to me, that's a really good book that I would recommend people, because when I don't like the ending, that's my personal opinion. But when I'm reading a book and the writing is just unbearable and I can't read it, then I can't be like, please read this book. I can't do that to you. Like, I did that to myself. It's not fair to anybody else. And I put myself through that. Like, I actually finished, I don't like to not finish a book. So regardless of how much I'm hating my life while reading it, I finished that book.
Fair enough.
It sucks.
What about you, Mary?
I would have to agree. The writing is definitely, it has to, pull me in if it's a book. I can't really think of a top 3 besides if I'm doing like just top 3 things. Definitely Cruel Intentions. I actually like that movie Wild Things. But I think those 2 movies kind of bring me into my like of suspense, psychological thrillers, those type of books, because that's kind of the book that, like, I don't go to fan fiction for that genre. So if the writing hooks me in, if the mystery, if I'm like asking questions about what's next, then I'm gonna, that's like something I look for in a book. It's kind of hard to say though, because I also read, like, continue a book if it's bad. I have to know how the story ends.
You're not a quitter.
No, yeah, I don't. I feel like a quitter. I can't quit.
Yeah. It's difficult to stop. It's like, well, I know it's like, I read a story, which I'm pretty sure was a fan fiction that they self-published. And reading it, it was like the person just like sped through everything. Everything was just like super fast. It had a small amount of romance, which was okay because it was just tiny, but the romance was just like 1 chapter, 2 chapters done, they're together. And then they want to focus on, because it was a crime drama, so they want to focus on the criminal, but then they caught him by like halfway through the book. So I'm like, this is too fast paced for me.
What's next?
Yeah. And then apparently it has a sequel, but I don't know if I want to do that.
Well, I mean, let's just math it out a little bit. So it goes into a couple chapters into the romance. Halfway through, they catch the criminal. So what? By the end of the book, they already went through 2 divorces and they have a kid. Has to be. That's how that's how the math works. No.
See, that's boring at that point. I can't
Yeah,
read
of course.
that.
That's insane. Uh, although I think that's one of those things that like especially with indie that we have there's not like a publisher telling us like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. There's a lot of license for people to do like a what's the word that I'm thinking of, avert expectations, you know. So like maybe they write the crime drama, and like if you were to ask the author, like if I were to have the author on here, they'd probably explain themselves as like, oh well, you know, every crime drama you have always catches a criminal at the end, but I want to do something catch it in the middle. So in that sense, that's like kind of interesting in the nuance, but sometimes too nuance can be too much, you know, especially if like you don't have a clear idea of like where what you're gonna do with it, other than oh well, it hasn't been done before.
Well, I actually enjoy the fact that we are seeing a lot of indie writers. Like people are self-publishing with Amazon now,
Hell yeah.
and you have access to so much more. But it also leaves, you have a chance of coming across something that's not as great.
Or is
Or
great,
good
it's not
enough.
poorly edited.
Well, yeah, but I think we can't really blame anyone except for the editing world, because they had such a restriction on what they wanted to publish, what they thought was going to sell, and they denied so many writers. And it's like, well, now the writers can do it themselves, and next thing you know, they're about to blow up being an indie writer.
Yeah, 100%. Specifically that I remember when I first started getting the idea of writing, and at the time it only seemed like traditional publishing was like the route. And I remember just thinking, like having all this like paranoid thoughts of like, wait, what if I send in my query letter or my manuscript, and then that specific day they get a pop tire and fuck whatever's on their desk that day. They don't care what it could be, the new Harry Potter on their desk, and they're like, nope. And then just like, you know, they come back tomorrow, get a new cup of coffee, and it just go on with their life. And to them, who cares? Because
Yeah.
you know, you don't miss the things that you'd never had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, going off with the whole thing of it's kind of a tandem question of what I asked before. What book, what piece of writing was it that kind of turned your brain on to writing when you were younger? Like the first time that you picked up a book and was like, oh, wait a minute, this is the thing that I could be into for a while. Like reading is awesome. Like what was the first book? What was the first like, you know, work that turned your head on into pursuing this as a
For
hobby?
me, it wasn't. For me personally, it wasn't a book.
A TV show? Movie?
No. Okay, don't judge me.
I wouldn't.
I was in love with the Backstreet Boys.
How can you? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, totally, man. And then I would join bunch of, like she said, blogs. Well, they weren't blogs. It was like live journal, Yahoo groups and stuff like that, where I met other people and we started writing together.
Oh
And
my God,
we
you just aged us.
well, it's I'm not gonna lie. That's where we started, on live journal and Yahoo groups and AIM.
Oh
That's
my
what we
God,
would,
AIM.
yeah, and MSN too.
Legend. Yeah.
Yeah, those were the times, waiting hours to get on the internet.
No, my favorite was like when you were doing something and then like, you know, your mom picks up the phone and all you hear is
Yeah. Get off the internet.
get off the internet. I gotta make a call.
Yeah.
Mom, I'm doing it.
That just reminds me of my childhood.
Yeah.
Oh my
Mom, I'm
God,
on
what if
cartoonnetwork.com. I just got to
Gen
level
Zers
3.
have to go through that now? They would die.
Oh
They
my God.
wouldn't
Can you
know.
imagine? What do you mean? Like, it's not even the kids. if my Wi-Fi messes up for 4 minutes, dude, I'm calling out my cable company like they just shot me.
But we paid our dues though. We
Right.
deserve that internet.
What dude did we pay? We just lived.
We
We just
we
got the
dial-up.
right
I
age.
remember waiting literally like half an hour to be able to hear that sound, to log on the internet, to do anything at like very slow speed. So
Oh, God.
I say we deserve this fast speed internet.
Yeah, but then even then, I can't remember slow speed at the time because at the time there was
What?
nothing fast.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
whatever you had was like the top of the line. You were like, oh shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's,
like
so
yeah,
fast.
I totally agree. Because if I think about my childhood and I think about going on the internet, it was pretty instant to me.
Instant. It was fast as shit to me. Oh
But
my
it
God.
wasn't. It wasn't reality.
I know, that's the crazy part. It's crazy to think that, you know, the computer that I had, the desktop that I had at the time is like 4 times slower than the
Yeah.
phone I have in my pocket.
It would take forever to boot up, right?
Oh, and the boot up time. That's because we
Oh.
didn't have SSD yet. We were still on
Yeah.
hard drive. It was literally disk sliding into one
98
another.
Windows 98.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying you got to go through the Windows noises.
Oh my God. Do you remember the AOL CDs?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
the Frisbee, I would play with those because they would like
Yeah.
send like, they would like airdrop them. There would be like
Yeah.
20 of them everywhere you went.
Man, I have family who still have AOL emails.
Of
They
course.
still exist. It's weird.
I still have one. A Squad 2424.
That's funny.
Oh man. But I do not use it, so good luck trying to get me. But spammers. But so tell me about the podcast. Tell me about how you dive into things, how you choose different books, how you get into content.
Well, the the choice of books is largely up to Lolly.
It's really not up to her.
I suggest things that I think sounds good and let her know, but then she just ultimately decides what she wants to read, which is fine because I don't mind learning about new things, which I think is what basically the podcast is. She reads something and then she tells me about it. I learn about either the subject of the book or learn about the story, and it's intriguing to me to hear about it because it makes me want to read the book, or it makes me say, yeah, no, I'm
No
good on
thanks.
reading the book.
Man, that's actually a genius setup because basically you have like it's like comedy. You have like the front man, and then you know what? I actually can't remember that setup. But basically, you have the person that's like loud in the thing, and then the person that's like, oh yeah, well, I guess that makes sense. And it's like it just accentuates like perfect.
Yeah.
That's actually a really great setup. So, how do episodes be released? Like, how do you handle everything with that?
We record. She actually edits.
Oh, you edit it. I actually don't edit this shit at all. I just go on with it. Although that pause I did in the beginning of the episode, I might have might have to be the first time I edit anything.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. We froze.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things that like usually the people are usually just like, oh hey, and like it just kind of goes in. So I kind of gave that gap, and I was like, oh shit, I probably should have introduced.
Literally, when that gap happened, I was like, should I don't know. I'll just wait.
No, and the worst part is that the gap always increases when I'm waiting because it's like, oh, wait a minute, but if you talk right now, then they talk.
Yeah.
Now they're gonna lose confidence in talking. And this is a
It's
podcast.
gonna be so awkward.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I can't do that. So I'm just there like, I hear a cricket, you know, because especially just knowing how everything is recorded, like every like second there's like past sounds. You're like, oh my god, I just lost 4 people right there. They were just like, fuck this shit.
No, she actually edits because I suck and I'm very precise. So she edits and she does a really good job. I'm very proud of her.
Oh man, that's awesome. I try to edit my first episode and it took me, no exaggeration, 36 hours of continual work to edit 1 hour and a half.
Well, I'm so sorry I'm laughing. It's because we understand. Like,
yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, fuck that. I think I can live with my ums and likes. I think we can do that. We'll be all right. I'll just get better at talking.
No, but you're pretty good at talking. Like you're just on the fly, you're asking questions and you're really good at holding the conversation.
Yeah,
When I'm
now.
telling her a story, or maybe, yeah, when I'm telling her a story, even though when I have the notes, I freeze, I go a lot, and then when I'm reading, I skip with I suck at reading. I can't English most of the time, so she has to fix it.
You
I
know,
mean, you've gotten better as far as like and things. So it's not so much of me editing that now. I mean, and also I get to put my degree in media
Yeah,
communication to use, so that's
hey,
good.
yeah,
man, that's awesome. Man, I don't know why, but I also want to ask, are you guys into like art?
yeah.
Do you like go to museums and shit like that too?
I've been to a few museums. I live in LA, so I've gone to
Hey,
LACMA. I've seen
yes.
James Turrell. Yeah, so I've seen quite a few exhibits. But when you said art, my mind went to graphic design and
Oh,
photography
okay.
because that's what I do.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so I do art, but I haven't been to a museum in quite a few years. Oh, the last one I went was, oh my God, the new one that opened. But when I say new one, it's been like 5 years.
The Abstract Museum. Well,
What's it
I
called?
lived in Downey.
Shut up.
Yeah,
I live
lived.
in, well,
Yeah,
I can't tell you, but I'm very close to Downey.
yeah.
I was just
That's
about
why
to
I
say.
said it because I'm not there anymore. It's like, yeah, whatever. You can
Yeah, and then no,
dox me.
I'm
Have fun.
about 15 minutes in certain location, like
Smart, yeah, because
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Could
Because
be
my
south,
dumb
east,
ass would
west.
easily
No,
be like, "Oh, I'm 15 clicks west, longitude, latitude."
no, I'm about 15 minutes away in any of the directions of Downey.
Exactly,
Good
and
luck.
that's just quote unquote. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's
uh,
pretty cool though. Are you
yeah.
here? Are you in LA or LA area still?
No, no, no. I moved back to New England.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
I went to
East
school like
Coast.
I moved to LA right after I finished my degree in Boston, and then
What was your degree?
I got electromechanical engineering with minors in business and psychology. I know it's
Wow.
weird that I'm into writing
Wow.
now.
It's fine.
Well, honestly, I like it a lot more. Like, just you get into those environments, and I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. And it's almost worse if I can be honest when you have like a degree like that, because then you show up and usually like you kind of get assigned people because I'll be the engineer and people be like, oh, I hear the technicians under you that are like people that are older than you, and then immediately there's no love. They're just looking at you like that young guy. So
Yeah.
it's just murder. Writing is so much better because you talk to like people of all ages, and it's just like a medium. Who doesn't like write?
Just
Well,
follow your passion.
exactly.
Just follow your passion.
Do you
If
think the psychology though helps you here?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, I think everything helps me here. I write sci-fi, so like all the technology that I create are like pretty. They have science background, and I actually make you can't see it, but they're like real. I like make them.
what about the art behind you?
This is a pixel art of my uh of like the book, and then the painting I actually made as well.
You did?
Yeah.
What medium?
Oh, that's paint. It's actually it's acrylic, and
Acrylic.
yeah, and I actually use like a favorite thing of mine that's like where you put salt on wet paint and you like scratch it off and it leaves like a
What?
yeah. I'm telling like it if you ever see like older episodes like when I'm recording during the day and the light shines through, you can see there's actually words and like a whole bunch
That's
of like
pretty cool.
graphics in between it.
I like to use acrylic, but I like to use pastel on top of acrylic on
Hell
my
yeah.
canvas.
Hell
That's what
yeah.
I like. Yeah.
I think
Everybody's so artsy.
this one is pastel right here.
I love pastel, but it has to be on acrylic. It's like my
Yes.
favorite. I don't know. And I love getting dirty about it.
There's something about it. I actually just
Yeah.
made this a couple days ago.
Cactus. That's pretty cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
And actually like got all the stuff from like outside and just like kind of glued it together.
That's awesome. See, I have all my art supply right here too. There's all my charcoal and my pastels and my pens. It's literally right in front of me.
Oh, you know what? I forgot. I forgot I have these. These are the ones that I haven't like framed up yet.
That's cool. Have you tried putting this on Illustrator?
Illustrator. What do you mean by that?
Like online, on the digitalize it.
This is digital.
It is? What do
Yeah.
you use?
This is this is a poster. This is cardstock.
That's pretty cool.
See, you have you two that's artsy, and then you have me who like to consume art. Like every time I go to, like, I just started going to Comic-Con type events
Yeah.
before
I always wanted
2020,
to.
and I love
I
picking
love
up new
Comic-Con.
art from them. I don't know, I like looking at them.
Yeah, it's actually kind of why I asked the whole thing about the museum. I just picked up a vibe. There's something about it. I really just love going to museums. Like when I was in like even when I lived in LA, I was in and out of it is called Lactac, right? I always mess up
LACMA.
that
LACMA with an M.
LACMA monster, right? Lacness, whatever. LACMA.
The museum is LACMA, which is Los Angeles
Museum of Arts. That makes sense, right?
Contemporary Museum
then
of
where's
Arts.
the that makes
Contemporary
sense.
movie. Yeah, I was like, wait, what? But I can't even remember the last one I visited, which I went for the opening, and it's really bothering me. I forgot what it's called.
Well, you've been to Griffith, right? Griffith
What do you mean?
Observatory. It's like where the Hollywood sign is and everything.
Yeah.
That is a great little like museum.
Now they charge for parking, and I'm upset about it. Like, I refuse.
Don't.
Yes, they do. I refuse to go.
You can't.
What is it? What is it about LA, man?
No.
Every corner, every little thing that they can do to get money from you. Those.
You know what it is? It's because there's so many people. Like, if people would stop
why would they
moving
care?
here.
Yeah, why would they care? They're like, it's like, have you seen our population numbers? No matter what we do, we still get plus 2 million every year. There's nothing stopping it.
No. But I think that's why they made it where you have to pay, because it gets packed. You can't even drive up the mountain anymore.
And just it's a beautiful hike, you know, just that nice little thing. I mean,
running canyon.
Yeah, easily. I mean, whoever's running on that, you got some. You know, God bless you, God with you. You know what I mean? Whatever you got to do, but because that shit's crazy. There are no guards over there. Evidently, LA does not care.
Now I'm saying there has. Well, I don't know if about the hike, but there is some up there because they're charging for parking.
No, I meant guards, like they're like you know, the guards on like the
railing? No.
Railings. That's the word. That's the word I meant. No railings.
Good luck. Don't die.
Yeah. No, my favorite. There was one time I went on. Now, I'm an inner city kid. And I honestly don't even know what that phrase really means. Inner city. I mean, if you're in a city, like in a city, whatever. But
where are you in the city? Like in downtown area, or in a city like any city?
Right, good question.
Or suburbs? Obviously not suburbs.
I was always in downtown. I always like downtown. But downtown. Anyway, so just always being in cities, things like hiking and camping, not my shit. Not my forte. I don't do it. Well, it's not that I don't do it. It's that like, and I've done it like when I got to high school and I started like, you know, hanging out with kids from Maine and New Hampshire and like all that shit. I got into it. You know, it's really cool. But at the time, not even a chance. So I go on a date one time on a hike over there, and I remember it is going, like the sun is going down. Like, you know how like LA randomly the sun goes down in like 20 minutes? Like it'll be like yellow and then like black in like 10 minutes from that. So like it's one of those things that we're going down and we're looking for, I can't remember what hike we're on, but it's like one of those exhibits on the mountain that there's like a random car that's like in the wilderness, and no one has ever explained how it got there, but it's just like a car like perfectly crashed in between like tree trunks. So the girl I'm with was like, tell me about it, and I'm like, oh, bet, let's go look for it. So we're going down, and it's one of those things that it's like yellow, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, whatever. And we're walking, and it goes from yellow to brown to blue to purple, you know, it's like getting like shades and things like that. And I'm like asking, I was like, yo, how far are we? She was like, yeah, we're still, you know, we're still like not even at the halfway point, supposedly, like based on like what the map is telling us and whatnot, because she hasn't been there either. So we keep on going down, and by the time it just gets like night and we start hearing, like, you know, when you start feeling eyes on you,
and you can hear bushes moving.
Yo, let me tell you, I turned it to like, cause especially that was like a date, you know, like walking down, I'm like, all right, baby, let's go. Well, I'm gonna punch him in the face.
Well, have you heard the coyotes?
Exactly. The moment it turned dark, I was like, oh, I think we should go. I think I'm getting kind of hungry. Let me
Yeah.
tell
No,
you.
I think there's a lot of
I was
not
so
I think.
far ahead of her when we walked back.
Oh,
Dude.
there's a lot of coyotes in that on that hill. Like
Yes, there
I've
are.
actually I've seen a fox and with my own eyes.
Yeah,
I kind of fed
fuck
it
that.
Taco Bell.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
weird in LA.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Why?
I was a $6 million man.
I'm pretty sure all of our exhibits here in Chicago are inside.
That-
No, that was like a hike, it was like
Yeah,
a mountain thing. Although
that's
I
not
guess
an
it,
exhibit.
No,
It-
what
it's
was it like? That's what you guys do for fun? You paid to go down
No.
scary
No.
hill coyotes?
nah, it's free. Oh, no, it's free, but parking is not. That's how LA gets you always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts and just everything. Bookshrine podcast. If you're not already listening to it, make sure to hop on. It's on everything: Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes. Did you get on Pandora?
Oh, we're pending on Pandora, but we just got on iHeartRadio.
Man, I need to hop on that one. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
iHeartRadio. So now, right after Ryan Seacrest, you can tune into right Bookshrine.
Bookshrine.
Now, what is when do you drop your episodes? When is the release date for everything?
It comes out every Thursday morning.
Every Thursday morning. Now, is there a time frame or is it just every Thursday morning? Wow.
It depends. Apple is good at being able to get it up at midnight. So midnight Wednesday, if you have Apple Podcasts, you can listen on that. But I think
Okay.
everything else is just morning,
especially
Thursday
Google.
morning.
I have no idea why Google Podcasts is so slow to catch it, but
How do you transfer the RSS feed?
so we record through, or not record, but we distribute through Anchor. So they pretty much do everything for us. They except for getting us onto iHeartRadio and Pandora, but they pretty much distributed it for us
everywhere.
Yeah, I use SoundCloud. I use SoundCloud as well, and maybe it's just I mean, I've never heard of Anchor, honestly. I don't want to get added by the people that work at Anchor. I just haven't heard of it. But SoundCloud, and I'm not a administrator for SoundCloud. SoundCloud gets shit up like on the fucking money. I remember I'll make an edit on SoundCloud and I can hop onto Spotify 2 minutes from there and the edit's already refreshed, which I remember when I used Stitcher for my RSS feed before, and Stitcher took me for years. I don't know what it was.
Wow. How long did our edit take, Renee? The last episode we had to edit something.
I'm not really sure. For Spotify, it was pretty instant because Anchor and Spotify are together. But for Google, it took Google as long as Google likes to take. And then for things like iHeartRadio, it was up there within like an hour.
Nice. Very nice. Now, Bookshrine again, and the Instagram is spelled exactly like that, right? Just BOOK Shrine. I don't know why they didn't spell shrine, but I'll trust you.
SHRINE. Bookshrine. But our Twitter is at _ Bookshrine.
Awesome. And is there any websites or anything to look out for? A Patreon?
We do have the link tree. We don't have a Patreon just yet, but we will soon. We do have the link tree up on our Instagram. So if you go to Instagram, link is in bio, and then that will take you to everything that we have.
Yeah, and if we get a Patreon, which we're thinking bonus episodes, more book clubby, it'll be linked there.
Awesome. That's definitely the route that everything is going right now. Now, what about the graphic design that you said that you do it? Do you do it on a commission basis? I know that the art that you have on Instagram is done by you, right, Lali?
Yes, that one's done by me. Everything we do is done by me. The videos we put up, she helps edit some of them. Some of them I do by myself. The photography is all me. But Sorry, what was the question?
It was the graphic designing.
Yeah, so I do everything in that aspect. So okay, so this is gonna sound funny, but if you see our actual cover right now, the hair is brown. I have to change that because I changed my hair to blonde and rainbow on the bottom. So every time I do something to my hair, I have to go back into that art and then tweak things up because it has to look like me.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, see, we're very new here, so right now that's important, and we'll see how long that keeps up.
Now, do you offer any services? Do you outsource any of your graphic designing?
I don't. Well, I mean, I do. I am a freelancer. I work. I hire clients. Well, clients hire
Clients
me.
hire you. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a bunch of clients, and I work for kind of like big companies as well as a freelancer. So I'm a contractor, and I don't really work as a staff. And I
Awesome.
am project based. So you said commission. Yeah, I go per project depending on how long the project will take. So
Phenomenal.
everything is different.
So again, if you're ever interested into that graphic designing, hit Lolly up. She'll get with
Photography
you.
as well.
And photography as well. She'll make sure that your hair is on the money. Exact color, no bullshit. And then for the writing, Mary is coming up, right?
I think so.
I think so too. Just the way that your partner was so passionate about your writing, I think that's coming up for
Yeah.
sure. So
We'll see. I'll definitely keep everyone posted.
all right, and you have to keep me posted. Again, people to follow Bookshrine podcast. Thank you again. What are final thoughts? Say a good hearty goodbye to the folks.
Well, I actually want to thank you for having us on this podcast. We really, really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks for everybody who's listening.
Yeah, definitely. It's the fans that make everything, right?
Yeah.
So
And
this
stay safe, dude.
especially, huh? Especially after the crazy 20.
We don't talk about that. It never happened.
Nope, definitely not. We just have a different writer now, right? So we went to the fan
Writers
fiction.
changed. Yeah, writers changed. Fixed it.
So this is the end of the podcast. AR's Tales, aka the ART podcast. I am Mirabal. This was Lalig and Mary. Thank you so much. And we will catch back on you for Monday and Friday for the next episodes. Peace out.